YouTube. Welcome to another Pixel Thoughts. It is 2024 and I'm moving. So let's talk about my year living alone while coloring this snow person. So at the end of 2022, I moved into an apartment by myself for the very first time. When I went to college, I always had a roommate, and then when I moved out of the college dorms, I had roommates, and then I moved back home and I lived with my dad and my sister for a while, and then finally at the end of 2022, I moved to live alone for the first time. What I learned was actually I don't have a problem living alone. I actually dealt with it quite well. I didn't really have any sort of anxiety about the neighborhood because it's a pretty nice neighborhood. Granted, what I did learn kind of late in the year of living here is that the apartment complex is kind of ghetto, or at least the people who live here are kind of ghetto, because apparently there was a whole issue of people straight up trashing the main lobby to host their friends. And then our apartment complex sent us a thing that was by the way, if you host more than 3 people, that's technically a rental, and you have to pay $500 to rent the commons area space. And I'm just like, girl, ain't nobody doing that. If I want to have my birthday party, I'm gonna have it, and I'm not telling y'all. And if people show up, because I'm not paying $500, I'm already paying y'all rent. And the other thing about this apartment complex too that I found that I didn't like is they claim to have every day but 2 days a week valet trash. But what I found was that there are certain days where if you are the only person who has trash, they will just leave it there. There were several times where they just did not pick up my trash, and I ended up having to put it back in my apartment. And it's just weird because if I'm paying you guys $50 a month for valet trash, why are you not picking it up? So that was another complaint I had. But the main reason I wanted to live alone for the first time was because I had never done it before, and also my sister. The nicest way that I can put this is that I fell out with my sister and I just did not want to live with her anymore. She betrayed my trust in a very big way and just was very selfish and very self-centered. I never really asked her for anything but this one thing, and she decided to do it, so I needed to move out quickly. If I had to give any advice for living alone for the first time, I would say if you are a person who doesn't have a consistent friend group chat, you should get one or make one and try to get people to engage in it as much as possible. And multiple group chats is also really good because it makes you feel less alone. Though I've never been a very lonely person from being alone. I like being alone. I like being able to, just make as much noise as I want to and eat food when I want to and not have to think about sharing the space with another person. So I'm gonna miss that because I'm moving back in with my mom due to me still not having found a regular job since I was laid off in June of 2023. And that's kind of what inspired me to start doing more videos and content for YouTube, is because I'm finding that having a regular 9-to-5 job is becoming increasingly more impossible for me. The main difficulty is that I have a disability now, so I can't really do a job that requires standing and walking. I need to be able to sit down and lay down throughout the day to not be in extreme pain. And most jobs, especially service jobs, which are the ones that you can usually get while trying to get a better job, do not want to hire anyone who has that requirement. And you know, people will say that these places have to hire you because of the ADA and all of that, but the thing is, if you and an able-bodied person apply for the same job, they're gonna hire the able-bodied person. And they're not gonna say that it's discrimination. They're just gonna say, well, they meet the job description better than you can because they can, you know, stand up for 8 hours a day where you can't. Anyways, because of all of that struggle, even now just trying to find a job in the industry that I'm in a very weird limbo where I'm kind of overqualified for a lot of things, but yet kind of underqualified for a lot of other things. Like, I was an editor for 2 years practically, which means that hiring me as a staff writer seems like a step backward. And yet I feel that a lot of companies, when they see that I've only had 2 years as an editor, they don't want to hire me as a kind of manager, even though I am in that mid to senior level employment. Like, I have over a decade of experience working. Anyways, the other thing is that they just like want to use AI to do all their content creation and don't want to hire anyone to, you know, do manual edits anymore, because there are things like Grammarly where you can just pay $100 a year and you don't have to worry about finding complex grammatical errors because nobody reads anyway. Maybe that's the real problem. In a world where nobody wants to read, who wants to hire an editor to edit writing? Anywho, do I have any other advice for... I don't really have much other advice because, again, I'm just not a person that feels or experiences loneliness like that. But I guess if I think about it, I would say the other thing is to, I guess, just be street smart about your surroundings, and also you will likely overestimate the amount of food that you actually need. I kept experiencing these situations where I would get food and realize that, like, it meant I would have leftovers for days and I would end up not wanting that food. So, otherwise, it's been pretty chill living alone. I still have a very typical routine of waking up and doing XYZ until about 10 o'clock, and then I spend like from 10 to midnight winding down whatever I've been doing that day. I will say the sort of 6 months of being unemployed has made things a little bit more difficult to keep a schedule, because now I'm just like, well, what is the point of anything? I don't have a job. But at least doing these videos every Friday has somewhat helped with that existential, what does my life mean if I don't have a job? Which I really gotta thank capitalism for that BS mentality of what am I supposed to do with my day if I don't have a 9-to-5 career. Either way, when it comes to being an adult in your 30s and living alone, basically you learn, or rather, again, I just feel like I'm such an outlier for the normal person because I also didn't have this sort of identity crisis that a lot of people go through in their late 20s, where they're like figuring out who they are and what they want and what they desire. I feel like I've had a very clear view of who I am as a person and what I want out of life. So, you know, living alone hasn't been very challenging to me, except for when it comes to things I can no longer do because of my disability. Like, it's extremely hard to clean, at least for a consistent amount of time. I constantly have to take breaks, and it's really hard to cook now. But there are services that you can get to help with those issues. So, you know, I do kind of miss New York in the sense that, like, everything is just an app away. Because I live in a Midwestern state now where it's just like everything is both forward thinking and backwards at the same time. So it kind of sucks in a lot of ways. But either way, as I transition back into sharing space with another person, I think the thing I'll miss the most is not having to think about another person. Granted, it's my mom, so it's like I've known my mom my entire life. I know how she is and her habits, and I don't care if she accidentally wakes me up at 4 a.m. Guess what? I'm going back to sleep, and I don't care about that. But I guess on a larger scale commentary about what it means to be an adult in their 30s moving back in with their mom, while I might feel guilty about this if I wasn't so critical of the individualistic approach to society, I don't, because multi-family households is pretty normalized everywhere else. Like, it is so normal to have like grandparents and parents and kids in one house and like blended, families and all of that jazz. So to close out, because I feel like this has been one of those more rambly episodes where I just kind of talked about my life and not much interesting thoughts that I had, I'll say that if you're finding yourself constantly having to start over and feeling discouraged about that, I would just say, you know what, it's not your fault. It's capitalism. Just blame capitalism for all your problems, and you'll really start to feel better about it. I will see you guys next week, hopefully with a more centered thought or through line of thoughts. But I hope you enjoyed this episode and enjoyed our little snow friend here. I hope you're having a great start to your 2024, and if not, it happens. Mercury shadow-grade. But I'll see you again. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.